I was canceled as a wedding guest at the last moment. Hi, I'm Rachel and welcome to Snacks and Scandals, where snacks meet Reddit story scandals. Today's episode theme has to do with weddings, and our snack for this episode are some Oreo Thins Irish Cream, which are just fancy enough for a wedding, but thin enough to match these people's fragile egos. And from what I understand, Irish Cream is a liqueur based on whiskey, and it also has additional flavors like chocolate, vanilla, and coffee. So before we dive into our snack, we're going to read our first story. I was canceled as a wedding guest at the last moment. We got a save the date for my niece's wedding earlier this year, January, I think. It said, "We're going to say yes, and we want to do it with you there." I called to congratulate, bought an engagement gift, etc. We talked about seeing her give her vows in a white dress and everything. Every time I saw her, I told her how excited I was for the wedding. I declined several invites from friends for a weekend getaway. Bought a plane ticket for my boyfriend. We've been together for 24 years, and he's known my niece since she was a baby, and booked a hotel room. Last night, I got a text that due to costs, I'm only welcome at night. No, not for the actual party. No, just for drinks at her parents' house. My niece will be there for around an hour from 10 to 11 p.m. to collect gifts from those people who can't make it to the party. Mind you, I've been to each of her birthdays, graduations, and housewarming since she was born 25 years ago. I've probably spent thousands of dollars on her, but she can't be bothered to even invite me to the ceremony. She does have money for a wedding planner though. Yeah, so I've canceled the room, and my boyfriend and I will be visiting friends when he comes by. We've decided to keep the plane ticket. The wedding is in 4 weeks. So, wow, the bride that is, can hire a wedding planner, but not afford to have close family. I mean, if you're attending birthdays every year and graduations, that to me is pretty close family. And so she cannot be bothered to include a close family member at the ceremony just for drinks, to collect gifts. Like, how tacky can you be? Yes, very tacky. One commenter writes, "I'm downsizing your invitation, but don't downsize my gift." Obnoxious. Get a book of manners to gift her and skip the hour she graces you with her presence. Yeah, no kidding. Do people ever really do this? I wish they would so I could read how it goes. Yeah, I'd love to know. Do any of you have experience with this out there? This is outrageous. Definitely call your sibling and find out the details. There's certainly more to this story, but a rescinded invite 1 month before a wedding you need a flight to from family, classless and heartless. Who cares what the story is? No invite equals no gift. That's a good way to base it. Yes, I agree. No invite, no gift, but I would need to know the story of why I was canceled, as well as who else was canceled before I could continue on with the relationship. The parent of the bride would need to explain this to me since the bride is too embarrassed or immature. That's just trashy. If you really do need to downsize your wedding, no cost reasons, there are so many better ways to do it. She just wants gifts. Yes, I agree with that sentiment. I've never in my life heard of inviting people to a grab gift get together after a wedding. I guess niece doesn't need an aunt anymore. I'm also thinking this must be okay with her parents, which is weird. How awful. I can't even imagine. Let's read one more comment. Gee, sounds like my brother and his wife. I still have a save the date for my niece's wedding, but no invitation ever arrived. We wouldn't have been able to attend, but by not inviting us, we save money on not sending a gift. We are now North Carolina with them, their choice, not ours. Okay. So some people have experience with this. Unfortunately, Yeah, it sounds like just a money or gift grab to me. So yeah, let's dive into our snack now. I love it when packages have this easy open container. Wow. You can really smell the scent going on here. I've never smelled Oreo cream, but I do smell a hint of coffee. And honestly, it smells a little bit like butterscotch. So let's give one a try. The cream is a little bit kind of a dark brown gray. It tastes like butterscotch to me. It's good. Oh, then the after taste coming in is kind of like, yeah, it's like a cream flavor, kind of like a sweetened condensed milk cream flavor. And now for the thin, delicate cracker. It's your typical Oreo cookie. Now for some milk. It softens up very quickly in the milk, as an Oreo Thin would. But I like it in the milk. Yeah, to me, it tastes like butterscotch. And now for our second story. A friendship was ruined over a cheap wedding gift. This happened a few years back. My best friend at the time, 25-year-old female, was getting married. It was sort of a destination wedding, as it was 2 states over and about a 7-hour drive there. I was excited to attend, but had to purchase a new suit, transportation, and pay for a hotel room for 3 nights. This was also the same exact month I had to pay $1,900 out of pocket for dental work. As you can tell, money was tight for me during this time period. The first thing that happened to me with my friend was her sending me a rude text about not staying at the right hotel. I had no idea, but on her wedding site, she had a recommended hotel for everyone except her and her groom to stay at. I didn't see this and booked a different hotel less than 5 minutes away as it was more affordable. She was not happy about this, but I didn't understand why I had to be at that specific one. Because money was tight and having already spent hundreds of dollars to attend this wedding, I only gave an $80 gift to their honeymoon fund. Looking back, I admit I could have splurged for more, but I don't drink, was without a date, and figured that everything I did to attend this wedding would be enough for her. About a year later, I mentioned to her I was invited to another person's wedding. Her first response was, "Well, don't be cheap and give them only $80. This message made my heart drop. Not only did it make me feel like I was a horrible person, I was also angry that she remembered my exact donation amount over a year later. From that point on, I lost a ton of respect for her and our relationship was never the same. I just can't believe that her entire memory of me at her wedding was being cheap instead of traveling 2 states over for multiple days to be there for her biggest day of her life. How could someone focus on that?" Honestly, to me, it sounds like she is probably a cheap person. If she is going to focus so much on things like that, she sounds like she's a very cheap person and not a very good friend. If you can't think outside of the box when you're putting a wedding together, I mean, it's got to be an expensive task. I've never been married, but to fund a wedding and all that goes along with it, and for people to come from out of state, you should realize that that is not going to be cheap for some people and they can afford what they can afford. So let's read some comments. Honestly, if you'd done all that for my wedding, I wouldn't expect a penny as a gift. I'm in the UK and I gave my friend €50 for their wedding. It's all we could afford to give after spending on bridesmaid's dress, shoes, hair, makeup, a new suit, and having some car trouble. 2 weeks after the wedding, we received a thank you note. With friends and family, it should never be about the value of what was received, but the fact that they tried. Yeah, no kidding. And let this be a lesson to some people out there. Like, it's the thought that counts. It really is. People can only afford what they can afford. And just because you might see something on the outside that could be different doesn't mean that, there's other things going on internally. Like this guy, for example, had to pay $1,900 for dental work. Tell her not to worry because the bride isn't begging for gifts like she did on her wedding. Ooh, that's a good one. She's got no class. $80 is fine, actually. Wedding folks have become crazy entitled lately. I agree. The trash will take itself out comes to mind. I'm so sorry she did this. I can't imagine how you must have felt when you got that text. Yikes, good riddance, I suppose. And let's read one more comment. Hotels frequently give kickbacks to the couple. So they are upset because they did not get the money from the hotel for that as well. Oh, very sneaky, sneaky. Very sneaky. And now for our final story. This comes from Wedding Shaming. Relatives offended because our wedding made them feel cheap. Just got to give some context. My wife and I are very fortunate to both make 6 figures. We also lived together for a year before our engagement and wedding. So we already had all the household stuff we needed and didn't really feel like we would want to ask for more. So for our wedding, we purposely didn't have a registry, and our invitation, we specifically said, gifts are not required. Your presence is the greatest present. We did also so to minimize the expenses for our guests, hoping as many of our friends and family would come and celebrate with us as possible. We do have a card box at the reception table for guests to write well wishes and slide their cards in. Apparently, some of my wife's relatives thought it was a subtle way to ask for money. It wasn't, so they felt obligated to put cash and checks in the envelopes. Afterwards, my wife and I overheard them complaining to my mother-in-law that it made them feel cheap. Like the wedding was a fundraiser or transaction. My wife almost burst into tears, so I stepped over and clarified that the money was not asked for or wanted. I offered to give them their envelopes back so they could remove their money. They refused since what's done is done. Made the entire wedding awkward for us and them. Other folks had zero idea. It made me feel like no good deed goes unpunished. So I think that the guests were rude even after knowing that gifts and money or money was not requested. They could have kind of relaxed a little bit and thought, oh, okay, I probably would have just left the money anyway, like they did, but just have been more understanding. And I think also that I would probably be confused if I saw a box there with envelopes. I've been invited to some weddings and I don't know how all of them are laid out, but if I saw a box with envelopes, I think that I would also figure that they would be wanting money. I was recently invited to a wedding, and after I RSVP'd, the next screen, because this was all through my phone, the next screen was asking for money to go towards the cost of the wedding. So I think nowadays a lot of people are probably doing that. And so it's not too unreasonable for the guests to kind of assume or think that maybe the box with the envelopes was them, maybe asking for donations. So I don't think it's completely unheard of. But once they understood that it wasn't the case, then I think that they could have relaxed a little bit. But I just think the people who do blatantly go out and ask for donations for the wedding, I think that that's very tacky. So let's read some comments. What a-holes. If you're petty, mail them back their checks with a note explaining you don't want them to feel cheap anymore, as obviously this feeling was so terrible that they felt the need to put a damper on your wedding and make the bride cry. Well, clearly they already checked in to see if the people wanted their money back and they didn't. So their loss, keep the money. Some people are always going to find something to complain about. It's a well-learned lesson. I know it's easier said than done, but don't let someone's complaining ruin what was supposed to be a wonderful day. Well, clearly that is going to be a core memory, unfortunately, for this wedding. One person writes, that's on them for trying to read between the lines. We had a similar situation. We made good money. Our wedding was on a holiday weekend and everyone had to travel. We wrote that we understood that travel was expensive and that their presence was more important than a gift. But if they insisted on giving, we did create a small registry of items at a wide range of prices just in case someone felt the need. I think about 30% of our attendees gave something, some of the registry and some money. And I would have been fine with 0%, but we didn't hear any complaints about it. That was a good way to handle it. A decade ago, that would have upset me. Today, my reaction to reading this was, that sounds like their problem, not yours. At a certain point, it's not worth the effort to try and please other people. Yeah, I think you do get to an age in life where you're just like, whatever, I really don't care what people think. So some people are saying putting out a card box for a wedding is extremely common. Almost every wedding I've been to has had one. Giving money as a gift instead of a gift is pretty common and usually expected. So let's read one more comment. What? Every wedding I've been to has a letterbox for cards. You don't have to put money in. Also, I don't understand how it makes them feel cheap. Right. Yeah, how does it make them feel cheap if they do donate money? Why do they feel cheap? I don't get that either. So let me know what you thought of today's stories. If you've ever been to a wedding and you've seen a card box, did you think that money was going in there, or did you feel obligated to put in money of your own, or what was the deal there? Maybe some people probably do expect it if they put out a card box, but I think some of these people have very fragile egos, just like our fragile, delicate Oreo Thins. And overall, I would rate these a 7.5 because to me, they taste like butterscotch. So call them butterscotch. But the aftertaste, I don't really love because it's kind of like I wouldn't say old cream, but I just don't prefer the aftertaste. But the initial taste of the Oreo being butterscotch, to me, I like. So let me know if you've tried these Oreo Thin Irish Cream cookies and what you thought of them. And I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next one.